Hello everyone, I'm Don and welcome to my kitchen. Today I got a special recipe for you. This all started when I saw a friend post a picture on Facebook. He was in a local restaurant and the caption read, Italian Perogies. Well, I said right away, I asked the question, what's in them? And he said, they're just standard pierogies. He said, they may even be just Mrs. T's pierogies, some store-bought. So I started playing in the kitchen and decided I'm going to come up with my own truly Italian pierogi. And I came up with a good one. So we're going to start by making our dough from scratch. We've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 whole eggs, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 1/3 of a cup of warm water. I've got some extra flour on the side which we're going to need when we roll the dough. So let's get started. I'm going to use a food processor. This works out really well. So we're going to go ahead and add our 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We're going to scramble our eggs. They don't have to be 100% scrambled, but I'm going to go ahead and add my half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to give it a couple pulses just to get that salt worked through the flour. Then we're going to go ahead and add our egg mixture. We're going to go ahead and pulse and get that egg worked through the flour, and then we'll gradually start to add our water in. So I'm going to add maybe about half of that. And give it a chance to get all the way through there. Then we're going to go ahead and add, this would be the 1/3 cup. And I'm going to stop and check it. And you're going to take it out and you're going to see it's a good consistency. That 1/3 of a cup water seems to be pretty consistently working out for me. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dust our surface with some flour. And we don't want to go crazy. This is not pasta dough. This is pierogi dough. And you want it to be a little stickier than you do your pasta dough. So I'm going to get this out onto my counter and try to get all the little pieces. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and pull it together and form a ball. You can see that it's forming very nicely. And I got the flour done just so it doesn't stick to the counter. We're not going to go crazy trying to add to it, and we don't have to do a lot of kneading with this type of dough either. If you over knead it, it'll make for tougher pierogies. So I'm forming just a regular old dough ball, very much like making pasta. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the dough ball. And we're just going to go ahead and let that sit on our counter for about a half an hour. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the filling for these. And so like the traditional pierogi, potatoes is one of the main ingredients. So we're going to start with our ingredients here for our pierogi filling. I already have cubed and boiled 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes. We've got 1 whole cup of ricotta cheese. We've got a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. We got a 1/4 cup of sour cream. We got a 1/4 cup of chopped Italian parsley. Got a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of butter. We also have a half a cup of finely minced sun-dried tomatoes, and some milk. My initial thoughts was to make this for the Lenten season. I'm always looking for something other than fish. I do like my fish, but every Friday throughout the Lenten season gets a little bit monotonous to me anyway. So, and not only that, I might have fish at lunch, and I don't want to have fish again at dinner. So, this came up as the idea. And the first time I prepared them, I strictly did them with these ingredients here, which is the cheeses, the sun-dried tomatoes. But I also did try them later with Italian sausage in them, and that's actually my favorite, and that's the way we're going to make them today. So if you're looking for a Lenten recipe, don't put the sausage in. So what I'm going to do is go ahead, I've got my potatoes, they're still hot. I'm going to go ahead and drain them, and I'm going to add them to this bowl, and it's a bit overkill, obviously, but there's a lot going into this. And I'm a little messy, so I want to make sure that I don't make a big mess. So we're going to go ahead and right off the bat, we're going to add our sour cream. We're going to add our butter. I'm going to take a traditional potato masher, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started working that butter and sour cream in. I'm going to go ahead and add in now, I'm going to add in my cheeses. So I'm going to add my 1 whole cup of ricotta. I'm going to add my half a cup of Parmesan, grated Parmesan. And I'm going to continue to mash it through the potato mix. And you can see I got my mixer out here because ultimately I'm going to go ahead and whip this. We can go ahead and add our dry ingredients. Let's go ahead and add our half a teaspoon of salt, our 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, our half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and we can go ahead and put in our 1/4 cup of finely chopped parsley. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fold this in with a spatula here. I've got a little milk set here. If I feel that this is not, if it's too thick, then we're going to go ahead and trickle in a little milk. First time I made it, it did. This time it doesn't seem to be. Did let my potatoes boil a little longer this time, so that could be as well. So let's go ahead and add our sun-dried tomatoes. Now, they typically come, either you can have, your own sun-dried tomatoes, or these were in a jar with olive oil. So, excuse me, I took them out and I put them between a couple layers of paper towels and pressed down, and I got the bulk of the oil off. Then I ran them through a little food processor so we could chop these up into little pieces because they were pretty sizable tomatoes, and we want this to go throughout our mixture. And I'm going to go a little, I'm not going to go 100% because they're a little sticky still from the oil, and I want to get them mixed. I would like to have every bite have some sun-dried tomato in it. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of those. Now you can use fresh garlic as well. There's so much going on in this this recipe that I felt garlic powder was okay, and I've made garlic mashed potatoes with garlic powder before, and they turned out well. So That's kind of the theme here. We got garlic mashed potatoes with a lot going on in there, a lot of other ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and add the meat in this batch here. Now what I have is sweet Italian sausage that I browned in a frying pan, drained the grease off. I chopped it up finely. It's roughly about 1 pound. And I'm going to put a little bit in at a time and see if I need to use it all or not. I'm going to go ahead and add it all. Why not, right? So it doesn't look like I'm going to need to use my milk. This is pretty good shape here. I'm going to go ahead and run the mixer though. Try to get everything just really. Part of the reason the big bowl, I'm pretty wicked with this with this hand mixer. I've had stuff spraying across the room before. And I try to get it off the sides of the bowls. So I always ride up kind of high, which is the problem. Okay, that looks really good. Take a look at it. So we're going to take a short break. I'm going to clean up a little bit. We're going to come back. Our dough will be thoroughly rested. We'll go ahead and roll the dough and start making some pierogies. Our dough has thoroughly rested. I also have set up some water because we're going to boil our pierogies like typical pierogies, and then we are going to also pan fry them or put them in a pan and saute them. And I've set up some ingredients here for that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get the heat on high here to get our water boiling, then we'll go ahead and roll our dough. I'm going to go ahead and put some olive oil on the skillet here. And I've got some sliced up some onions, I got some garlic. So I have actually two cloves of garlic, about a medium-sized onion. I don't know that I'm going to use all that. Some roasted red peppers and some peppercini. In the meantime, let's get our dough out. Our dough is a little sticky. This is a little different than your pasta dough. So I'm going to put some flour out. And I'm just kind of pressing it out a little bit. Don't do a whole lot of hand kneading with this type of dough, but I do a little bit. So I am going to cut this into quarters like I did. If you've seen my pasta making videos, you'll know what I'm doing here. So I'm going to put 3 parts of this to the side here. Altogether, this dough should make 24 to 30 pierogies. This mixture should certainly fill that. You may even have a little left over. Of course, you can make multiple batches. You can just double the recipes. So I'm taking 1 of the quarters of the dough ball and I'm keeping it floured. It's very pliable, very soft. I am going to use a KitchenAid attachment for rolling out the dough. You can do this a couple ways. You can use the manual pasta machine like we did in the pasta video. We could also use a hand rolling pin. I just got this gizmo. I used it in my pasta video. I like it a lot and I'm going to be using it on a regular basis. So I kind of want to get this into a rectangular shape. And I'm going to go ahead and set this at our widest point, which on this is 7. Now we're not going to take it as thin as we do pasta. We're going to take this down to about a 1/16, maybe a little under 1/8 of an inch, somewhere in there, 3/32. So I'm going to go ahead and start passing it through. And you're going to want to flour. I'm going to go ahead a second time through. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and take it in a notch. So we'll go ahead and speed through this. Okay, so we got this rolled out to about 1/16 of an inch. Not quite as thin as we go with pasta. Now there's a couple means that we can use to cut this. If you have a cookie cutter about 3-inch diameter. I have a couple different cutters I use for cannoli shells, but I also bought this this little gizmo just specifically for this. And this is a pierogi maker or an empanada maker or a dumpling maker, whatever they call it. But it certainly can be used for making pierogies. And the idea is you can use the back side of this as well to cut. So one side we don't want to get too much flour going on it. The one side we do want flour, the side we put down on this mold. So I'm going to just press down and give it a little turn. And didn't do the best job of cutting that out, but so the one side we want to make sure we have some flour on because we don't want it to stick to our mold here. And we don't want too much on this side because when it crimps, you do want that to stick. And so you're going to want to have maybe a little cup of water on hand just to help you in case this has trouble adhering. So I'm using just a little teaspoon, but I'm figuring it's probably about a tablespoon of ingredient. And I've only used this briefly. That's not what I want to do. I want to take some water. I'm going to go ahead and stretch it over. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the little press. And we're going to open it up. And we have pierogi. Actually works pretty well. Not too fond of the cutter because it's leaving these little tabs that are causing an issue. So I'm going to grab my cutter that I use for my cannoli shells. So I'm going to go ahead and they're variable sizes, so you could potentially make different size pierogies as well. So this is going to be the traditional method without having some gadget. So we're going to take about a tablespoon of ingredient. I'm going to take a little water and just wet the one edge. Then I'm going to stretch that dough up and over. And then we're going to just pinch along that line. And that's just basically how you're going to make them. So I'm going to make a few more. I'm not going to go through a whole bunch here today, but we're going to get through the whole process. So I'll speed along here and make the rest of probably about a half a dozen of these, and then we'll proceed to cook them and fry them up. I'm going to go ahead and start dropping these into the water. And you're just going to gradually put them in. And they don't cook a real long time. 2-3 minutes tops. They'll start to float to the top when they're done. If you didn't do a good job sealing the edges, you're going to know here. Your topping is going to come out into the water. So we'll let those go in there. I'm going to crank the heat up on this a little bit here because obviously it's taking way too long. Go ahead and get our, got about a tablespoon of butter we're going to put in there as well. We're going to put our garlic in. Alright, so our pierogies have been in the boiling water for a good 3 minutes. I'm going to take them out, put them on a plate. Looks like we did a pretty good job on the sealing. Well, like I said, you could just go ahead and probably maybe put some butter on them, some Parmesan. I bet you they would be good just like that. I personally think that I'm going to like to put mine in a skillet, maybe even brown them a little bit. Okay, our onions and everything were sauteed quite nicely. I went ahead and added my pierogies to the butter and the veggie mix over here. And I'm going to let them pan fry a little bit with all the onions and the peppers. So we'll let this go, and then we're going to give them a taste. All right, so everything's looking really good here. We're gonna give it a taste. I'm going to go ahead and put a little pepper, a little salt, I'm going to serve these up. That looks pretty darn good, and I think this ought to really help as well. Oh yeah, you're gonna like this. I gotta tell you, the sausage makes it. That's it. That's it for Italian pierogies. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you make it. Let me know what you think of it, and thanks for spending the time with me. I'll see you next time.